Continuing on in chapter 11, today we're going to be talking about surface area, lateral area, and volume of cylinders. All right, what makes a cylinder? A cylinder is a 3D figure that has two parallel circles as its bases. Now, here is a great comparison between what we did yesterday with prisms compared to what we're going to do today with cylinders. Now, when you look at prisms, remember our lateral area was the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. In cylinders, remember that the perimeter is actually the circumference of the circle times the height of the cylinder. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the height of the cylinder. In other words, how far are the two circles away from each other? Then for surface area, remember yesterday we did 2 times the base, the area of the base, plus the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. So now remember that the area of the circle is pi radius squared. So we're literally going to take 2 times the area of the circle, the base, and then we're going to add that to the circumference multiplied to the height of the cylinder. And then our third option is for volume. And remember, to do the volume, we take the area of the base times the height of the prism. So over here, we're going to take the area of the circle times the height of the cylinder. Okay, so that's what we look like here. All right, so now let's take that and let's try all 3 of these then. So we're just going to start off with the first one. We're going to start with lateral area. So remember, lateral area is the circumference times the height of the cylinder. So here I'm given the diameter is 5. So the radius would be 2.5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the circumference. The circumference is 2 times pi times radius times the height of the cylinder, which is 8. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to go 2 times 2.5 times 8, and that's going to get us 40 pi. Then I'm going to take that 40, multiply it by 3.14, and we end up with 125.6 square feet. And that is going to be the lateral area of the cylinder. Next, I'm going to move to the surface area. So the surface area, remember, is the area of the base times 2. So the base, a circle, the area formula for a circle is pi times radius, 2.5 squared. Plus, and then I'm going to add on the lateral area, which is 2 pi times 2.5 times 8. So that's going to equal out to, so 2.5 squared times 2 is going to get us 12.5 pi plus 40 pi. So my exact value would be 52.5 pi. And then we would take that 52.5 times 3.14, and that's going to get us 164.9 rounded square feet. Okay, then we're going to jump down, and now we're going to do the volume. Remember, the volume is the area of the circle, the base, so pi times 2.5 squared, multiplied to the height of the cylinder, which is 8. So 2.5 squared times 8, that's going to get us 50 pi. There's my exact. And then I take that 50 times 3.14, and that's going to give me 157 approximate cubic feet. So if you notice, it's very similar to what we did on day 1. It's just now we have to add in all the formulas for the circles. So the circumference instead of perimeter, the area for the circle instead of the area of the base, and so on and so forth. So you just get a lot of that pi stuff going along in there. All right, so what if we gave you a problem like this? What if we said, hey, I know the volume and I want to find the height. Now, if we remember that the volume is equal to pi radius squared times the height. So we could take that information now and put that in and see what the height would be. So I know the volume is 549.79 cubic miles. I know that the radius is 5, but I don't know the height. So now just doing a little math, we got 549.79 is equal to 25 pi times h. So now if we divide both sides by 25 pi, that's going to leave us with h is equal to. So remember when you type this in, if you're going to do it all in one shot, that you make sure you use parentheses for the 25 times 3.14. And when you do that, you're going to end up with 7.0 miles because it would round out to the nearest tenth. It would be 7.0 miles. Okay, let's look at the second one here. On this second cylinder, I know the height is 15 miles. I want to know what is the radius. So again, I'm going to put in the numbers I know. So 13,618.8 is equal to pi times radius squared times height. So if I condense that down, I got 13,618.8, and that is equal to 15 pi times radius squared. So if we divide that by 15 pi, divide that by 15 pi, we end up with radius squared is equal to, and again, take your calculator, 13,618.8 divided by 15 times 3.14. And we end up with, let's go to two decimal places, 289.15. And then at this, we're going to take that and we're going to take the square root of that. And that is going to give me then that the radius is equal to, so 289, take the square root of 289.15, and we end up with a radius of 17.0 miles. And that's how we would go about finding that. Okay, that would find our radius for us there. All right. What do we do with pictures like this? What do we do to find the composite here? Well, if you think about this, this is a cylinder that has a sector cut out of it. So what we want to know is what portion of the volume do we have? Well, if 90 degrees is cut out, then what's left is 270 degrees. So we have 270 degrees of the full circle left of the volume. So remember, our volume is equal to, we'll come back to the sector part, but remember it's pi times radius squared times the height of the cylinder. But we said that we only have 270 degrees out of the full 360. So with that, that's going to leave us here, and now we can do a little bit of simplifying. So that's going to get me 3/4. That's going to get me a 16. 4 goes into 16 4 times. So now we end up with a volume that is equal to 3 times 4 is 12 times 10 is 120 pi. So that would be our exact, and then we would take that and simply go 120 times 3.14, and that's going to give us 376.8 cubic feet. And that's our approximate, this is our exact, and that would be that. Now, if we look at this second one, we have a rectangle that has half of a cylinder thrown on it. So if we draw that line down, this would be the half of the cylinder that we have. Now, if we look at that, that is a rectangle then. So what we could do is we have a prism with half of a circle, half of a cylinder. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to find both measurements and then we're going to add them together. So let's start with the prism. So I'm going to start off. The volume of the prism, remember, is the area of the base, so 8 times 18, times the height of the prism, which would be 10. So I'm going to go 18 times 8 times 10, and that's going to get me 1,440 cubic inches. But now we're going to come back, and now we're going to find the volume of a semi-cylinder, or half of a cylinder. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the volume of the full cylinder, and we're just going to cut it in two. We're going to cut it in half. So remember, the volume of a cylinder is pi times radius. Well, the diameter is 8, so the radius would be 4. So we have pi times 4 squared. And then the height of the cylinder is the same as the height of the prism, which is 10. So that's going to get me 16 times 10, which is 160 pi, divided by 2, which is 80 pi. So my overall volume then, my total, is going to be 1,440 plus 80 pi cubic inches. That's my exact. And then I would come back and I'd go 1440 plus 80 times 3.14. And that's going to get me 1,691.2 cubic inches. And that's our approximate. And that is how we find surface area, lateral area, and volume of a cylinder.